if you're hearing this, it means one of us is dead. That's
Wow.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, presented by CinemaSins.
All right, welcome to this bonus episode of Behind the Sins,
Wait, you're just going to start it?
a podcast from the B-team of CinemaSins B-team, meaning that we are less than the A-team. Is that how it works?
I don't know. Maybe that's one of the questions we were going to talk about on our bonus podcast that you have decided to start for us.
Yeah, that actually is a question that kind of came up. Not necessarily our worth and value, but we'll get into that. We're doing a bonus episode today, and I'm in charge. Ooh, but I've got my volume on, my computer on.
This is my favorite thing. I thought you were just going to be in charge of like asking the questions and emceeing and stuff, but you're just like, no, this is my podcast.
It's my podcast.
I'm doing the intro.
That's right.
It's all about me. I love it. Let's go.
I'm joined as always. Oh, by the way, I'm Danae. I'm joined as always by Jonathan Watkins.
Hello, hello.
And Darren Hughes.
Idly host in Arenos.
How did I do?
It was pretty great. You may have messed up my last name, but no, you did
Everybody
good.
knows who you are.
I mean, it sounded to me exactly like the intro. I don't think you missed a single word.
Yeah.
Not a beat.
That was pretty amazing.
Recently, we went to Twitter, and by we, I mean the CinemaSins account, our main Twitter account, and we asked the audience at large if you had a question for the team in general, what it would be. And so today on this special episode of Behind the Sins, we're actually going to be answering questions and answering them from, not asking questions, we're going to be answering questions that you guys asked from the whole team's perspective. So
And we used them, right? Because they're the A team, and we wouldn't have gotten as many questions if
No.
we'd used our accounts.
no, we're
We were like,
the little
Jeremy,
ones.
tweet this out now.
Yeah, please, would someone please give us
I
attention?
don't remember you saying please. I think it was just
Yeah, no, I don't either. Yeah,
I think it was just,
there wasn't a lot of asking
Jeremy,
involved.
please, I need you to do this.
It was like, Jeremy, here's what you're doing, because we were gonna do a Q&A. Now we haven't mentioned.
And they were all pretty nice. Maybe,
Yeah, they were.
Maybe there were a couple that weren't. But
We haven't mentioned that we're in the same room.
Oh,
we're
yes,
all
that's
hanging
right.
out together.
Yeah.
That's always fun when we get to do this.
Yes, being vaccinated has its perks.
Yeah.
And one of them is the comfort of being in the same space together. And you guys know we are spread out, but most of the team is in the Nashville area.
Yes.
And then Aaron and I are in the Southwest Missouri area. So we try to drive out every few months to stay connected. And we didn't do that for a year. So it's kind of weird to get back into the rhythm of seeing each other.
Yeah.
So we're all in the same space together.
Yeah.
I
You
can
see
smell
everybody's
you and everything.
Beautiful faces.
oh, God, I'm
and-
glad I showered.
I didn't. Can you smell me?
No,
Oh, okay.
I can't really smell. So.
Oh, okay.
Me
No.
either.
Oh, that's
yeah,
not.
Today's
okay,
the only one with a
no.
sense of smell in the room.
By the way, that's not a COVID thing. That's a allergies.
Good,
and,
good clarification.
Yeah,
Good clarification. I haven't had a sense of smell in 15 years. So
When I had to go to the doctor the other day, this guy walked in and she was asking what was wrong with him. And he's like, I can't smell. And I was like, oh, so that guy's got COVID probably. And then he just comes and sits down by me. I'm like, oh, great. But I was negative, so we're good.
good. That's
yes.
good. That's good to
I'm
know.
glad. We're going to jump right in and just go through
Well,
several questions.
One more thing. I feel like we also have to say
Oh.
we're, especially because we're talking about COVID and that kind of
so
stuff.
hard for you to just let me be in
No.
control.
I think I'm just trying to keep the listener in mind because you may be hearing this 2 years from now. I have no idea when you're
Oh,
hearing
that's
this.
true.
Like, we may mention things that are in the moment now, which is
Today's date is the 31st of August, 2021.
Right.
These people
but-
aren't going to remember they asked questions. They're going to be like,
but we're kind of putting this in because we have had times where one of us will get sick or we'll need to take a break or do a vacation or whatever we need to do, and it'd be nice to have one in the can.
happer.
So yeah, if you're hearing this, it means one of us is dead. That's
Wow. Wow.
that's what it means. So
Wow.
apologies. I hope you're mourning well.
I just have this idea that like everyone's like, God, I hope it's not. And then
was like
insert
all of a
B-team
sudden,
person.
all of a sudden they had the priority of
like
who.
they rank.
it was
Yeah.
like hearing Chadwick Boseman's voice on that What If episode.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be the same thing. here.
Yeah, that-
I mean, we're not that we're Chadwick Boseman.
That was
a
very-
terrible.
That was
actually.
very recent in our world.
Yes.
That episode.
Yes. Might be 3 years ago now.
You're now into the 7th season of What If.
Oh my God! I hope not.
I feel like we're not going to be able to not talk about like our work.
Oh, of course.
We're not going to be able to. And I'm going to bring this up in the show proper. And so if this is something that airs like 2 years down the line, I'm happy to remind everyone I actually like the animation of What If. I just want to say it here and now in this moment with you.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with animation. I never complain about animation though. Like animation is just whatever style that person chooses. I don't know that I ever just like. I don't know. I don't know what would be like really terrible animation.
Speaking of animation, that was actually one of the things that was brought up outside of Twitter was if you guys could do an animated series for your job, what would it look like? And I love this idea. I didn't give you guys a heads up that we were going to have this on the list because that's me. That's my style.
That's all right. I'm playing the Danae role today. I didn't prep a single bit for any of this.
Isn't it lovely?
It's lovely. I'm just ready to answer stuff.
So if there was an animated series about us?
About CinemaSins, something to do with our brand, what would it look like? And Aaron and I have talked about this on several occasions, but I think it would be really funny to take clips from our podcast, like little things that happen. For example, the time that you walked away from the microphone, Jonathan, and it was the cleaning person in the background, and it just sounded like you were being murdered by a vacuum cleaner, and Aaron and I are playing that up. Like, that would be a really funny little animation moment that's not necessarily like, if somebody watched it, they wouldn't say, oh, this is clearly branded for CinemaSins, and this makes sense for the brand. It's more like the people behind the scenes stuff. I just think that would be really, really fun.
I think somebody's done that for some of the Syncast audio. I think somebody has done a little bit of that, if I remember correctly. But that is a fun thing. I do like it when like fans of podcasts, like the no animation will animate a clip, and that vacuum one is.
I think it would just be Big Bang Theory. That'd be. I'm kidding. I don't know. It'd be. It might be like a Kevin Smith movie or something. Though, for all just sitting around talking about movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did look into hiring an animator. My first 6 months on the team, I was just kind of looking around, just to see what the cost would be. And also what the plan would be. So to work alongside a couple of artists to bring to life some fun things that we think our fans would really enjoy. So not our YouTube channel, not like a how it should have ended thing at all. So not like nothing that would go out on the main channel. It would literally be just for the fans from like almost more of a podcast perspective. And animation takes a lot of time. And a lot of focus, and it would literally be, hiring someone onto our team that would be what we would pay them to do.
Right.
So it would be awesome if we got to the point where we were creating like entertainment content for you guys that comes from our podcasting world, but that's probably not going to happen in forever.
Yeah, because it might be quicker turnaround now, but I feel like aren't most animated shows like The Simpsons and stuff, aren't they working like on like a season and a half ahead or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're way out.
And then like animated movies are 2 years in advance or whatever. That's when they start working on them. So
animation takes a while.
I want to know what you're thinking.
I appreciate your honesty. You're a real straight shooter.
You are the ones who are the ball lickers.
All right, let's jump into some of the actual tweets. This one comes from Caesar, who asked, what does the B in B-team stand for? And then with a little addition of have fun with this one. So,
have fun with it.
This is where it's like, oh, the real answer is kind of probably boring then.
Yeah,
like,
but boring works. The boring team. The boring team. Yeah, that works really well.
I didn't even think
Moving on.
Great question.
I mean, the B doesn't really stand for anything, right? So.
Well, Aaron is the one that came up with it. I suppose we should start there. And it was just more of an idea when this podcast started as a way to kind of, Aaron and Jonathan were hired at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then I came on about a year later.
We were conjoined twins. They had to...
Literally born on the same day.
So
we're a year apart, though.
A year apart.
Our poor mother had to wait a whole year for me to come out.
Yeah, I was just hanging out on the outside for a year, just waiting for my buddy.
But I think it was originally, Aaron, you can speak to this, just a way to talk about the new hires versus the quote unquote original team, which I guess the original team is Aaron and Jeremy and Chris. And then they hired on their friend Buddy Barrett. And that's who we refer to as
their friend Buddy Barrett.
Yeah, Barrett's first. Yeah. Barrett has another first name. It's Buddy.
You didn't know this, but yes, it's actually Buddy Barrett Share.
And he looks like an elf if you've never seen him. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so there's psychologically fun things with labeling yourself as like the also ran. Like if there's a self-deprecation to it that's really fun, it also allows for people to kind of glom onto like, we know we're the next crew. We know Sincast is the big daddy, and we're doing our best and doing our thing. And so B-team was that. It also worked out nicely because we named the podcast Behind the Sins. And so it's like the Behind the Sins team, the B-team, so it kind of worked out nicely.
Yeah, and it was funny because I remember, I think it was Jeremy that had a hard time calling us that because he felt bad.
Yeah.
And Barrett and Chris, of course, just laid right into it. But I was like, no, like it's cool. Like we've kind of accepted it. So.
No, it's a nice little, I think it's a nice little term of endearment. I think,
it's nice having a name.
It's an identity, right? Like it's a kind of a cool thing to grab onto.
I looked up words it could mean though.
Okay.
Oh, good, nice.
I went to bablative, which is you're prone to babbling or chatter.
That works.
Backspang, which is a sudden jolt or kick, which is how I described Danae.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bafflegab, which is jargon-filled talk that sets out to clarify something, but only ends up confusing things, which I feel like that's us every week.
Those are great words.
I love that one. That may be the go-to.
What is it?
Bafflegab or something?
Bafflegab.
Yeah, Bafflegab.
And then my last one I
Bafflegab
found,
team.
which is just
The
dumb, but
Bafflegab
it's beauty-racious or buddy-racious. It's something that tastes or looks buttery, which is all three of us. So
Yeah.
Butteracious.
But no, the Bafflegab, when I saw that, I was like, I found some site, it was like 40 like awesome words that start with B or something.
Well, I think that's the official answer now. The B stands for
Bafflegab.
Bafflegab. The
Bafflegab
team.
gang.
Because we do often start explaining something and then we confuse ourselves.
Yep. Nope. Totally.
Yeah, that has been an interesting part of the evolution of the show. We've continued to sort of, our rhythm started pretty quickly with the setup of like how we format the podcast, and we've pretty much stayed consistent to that. But we do have a way of just complicating. We're bafflegabbers. I love it. This one's from Nick. Who on Twitter who asks, if the A team run the Sincast and the B team run the BTS cast, are Daniel and Ian the C team, and when will they get their podcast? Or when will their podcast be airing? This question's come up a couple of times with, well, now you have 2 new writers, so are you adding another team? And there's other questions about the hierarchy of this, so we'll kind of get to more of those here in a minute. I think we'll just focus for now on, will Daniel and Ian be getting their own podcast?
I mean, who knows? I mean, if Daniel and Ian want their own podcast, that's the thing. I think there's a level of expectation a lot of times with this stuff that, they sat down for months and then they strategize and they plan. And a lot of times it's just like somebody has an idea, somebody has a seed.
This was quick, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was real quick. Like I was just like, this would be really fun. I think the fans would enjoy it. Why don't you 2 hop on? Danae wasn't even really working for CinemaSins hardly yet. And so, it happened. So of course that can happen, but there's, it's not like something you don't ever want to force it, right? Like that's the thing with creative work. If you do stuff because strategically it makes sense, that's fine, but it can feel forced and it can feel a little less passionate about it. But, if somebody has an idea, I'm sure, that's a possibility.
We do have an internal sort of checks and balances system when it comes to podcasting. So if they came to the table with a podcast and it sucked, we would say no. I just want to clarify that.
Thank you, Danae.
We're going to talk about paint. We're gonna pick a color every week. It's gonna be
for our last
painting
segment
with Dan and Ian.
For our last segment, our last 10 minutes, we're not gonna say anything. We're just gonna watch the paint dry. For the last 10 minutes of the podcast, just silence as we all watch the paint
Ian's
dry.
like, so I'm gonna put some periwinkle on this wall. Daniel, what do you think?
Oh my God.
It's becoming a little more blue as it dries.
Oh my God.
Now people are going to want that to happen.
Yeah. At least one episode, like a mock episode of this podcast.
Yeah.
Or Daniel and Ian just put it together as a joke and don't tell the A team. And they just listen to this like test pod. Like, what are these 2 doing?
Yeah, I do think it's a bit unfortunate. Maybe not unfortunate. It doesn't really matter. But that there's an expectation that they will be the C team or whatever that is.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
So
there's more questions about that coming up. This one is from Polly, who says, as the B team, do you ever wish that the teams would swap formats for a week, where we get a Sincast, but it's the BTS format, in the BTS podcast with the Sincast format.
Absolutely, 100%. That's that would be a
that'd be
blast. That would
Yes.
be so much fun.
He goes on to say it would be fun to see the B team do rants, do a rant segment, and the A team reading notes about writing sins. Jeremy also loved this idea, and I think also Barrett said this would be fun as hell. We'd have to come up with a sort of standard format for us to do, for the B team to do a Sincast episode, like either a basic episode with rants and such, or maybe a Guess the Goofs episode. But yeah, I can see maybe where we set up.
Because we already kind of do recommends and warns because we do Beyond the Sins.
Yeah, we do a little
which
bit
is
of
my
that.
favorite segment.
We do end up ranting every now and then too, but we would actually come up with specific rants and no.
Yeah, we can figure it out. I would be I would be very aware of trying not to do an imitation of
I know,
you know what I
right?
mean?
Yeah.
I would fear I don't know.
Well,
maybe that would be funny. Maybe it'd be funny to be grab some of their
and I've
ticks
guested or
and-
filled in for Jeremy a couple times where I've done those kind of episodes. So I mean, it would definitely be different. So that'd be fun.
Who would you imitate, Jonathan?
I don't know that I don't know.
I mean, right now you're in Jeremy's chair, so
Yeah, I don't think I could do a good Jeremy. I could probably do a good Barrett. I would just have to make weird sexual comments and then be like, oh man.
There you go. Yeah.
you just got to go. Why does it have to be another sequel? That's my Jeremy. That's my.
Oh, okay. So that means I'm Chris.
Oh yeah.
That automatically makes me Chris.
Yeah.
No fucking pressure.
I can't. I just want to know what Danae's rants are going to be. She's going to be like, I'm going to talk about milk.
Man,
Milk is hard on
Aaron
the
has
stomach.
heard me rant before. If I get passionate about something I don't like, I can go off.
Yeah. No,
It's
this is
just-
fun. This has to happen. We'll have to make this happen. This will be fun.
It would be kind of interesting to do around April Fools or something where we just kind of switch episodes.
Don't even tell anybody. Just be like,
Yeah.
that is fun.
Well, April Fool's would be a good time to release the Ian and Daniel painting. Even if we just do a small segment with them, that'll be the start of we'll have it at the beginning, and then we'll go into BTS. They'll be
Right.
like gotcha.
House of Paint.
I also think it would be really fun for us to be strategic and drop in a mini BTS episode in the Sincast feed and vice versa.
Yeah. There's promotional opportunity there for sure.
Just kind of come up with a little a short bite size of what we do.
So that is the other question though. When we do flip flop, if we make this happen, which I would love to, does our version of the Sincast go in the Sincast
I
feed?
think so, right?
And their version of Behind the Sins
Yeah,
goes in the Behind the
yeah,
Sins
yeah.
feed? I think that's right because that's the format of the show, right? So the format of the show should go in its appropriate feed.
You watched CSI, didn't you?
Yes, for a long time. I gave up on the last couple seasons.
This would have been before that because I can't remember if Grissom was still on there or not. But do you remember that week that Chuck Lorre, who was doing 2.5 Men at the time, his team did a CSI episode, and the CSI team did a 2.5 Men episode. The CSI episode was Katie Seagal was the person who got murdered. She was a stand-up comic or something. Do you remember this?
I don't remember it, but that doesn't mean I didn't see it.
But when they say that, that's kind of what that made me think of.
Yeah.
Was just fun stuff like that. So I think that would be a lot of fun.
It'd be fun.
Yeah. This one's from Brady, who has a question about, I guess, the definition of fast food.
Okay.
Is Starbucks fast food?
I'm glad you asked.
No.
I'm glad you asked.
You don't think Starbucks is fast food? I do, for
Yeah,
sure.
they are now. I don't think they started out as fast food. I think they started out as a coffee shop.
Well, they do have sandwiches and stuff.
Yeah, they
now,
got
don't
breakfast
they?
sandwiches.
Yeah,
and
never mind. I guess
they've got
they
a
are.
drive-through, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's
By the way, I had their. I don't know. I don't want Starbucks to not advertise for us at some point.
Well,
so
they
I'll-
listen. They listen
they're
to our
at the
show.
door right now. They were knocking.
No, I was one morning. I was picking up. My daughter wanted a cake pop or something, and so I was like, I'll just get a sausage biscuit. It was something I
It's
ate.
not great fast
Yeah.
food. It's
Yeah.
not great fast
It's
food.
not.
I don't enjoy
I guess
their
it
food.
is fast food. Yeah.
The follow-up question to that then is, does that make Pete's fast food? Now, I don't know what Pete's is.
I don't know what pizza is at all.
I have no idea what
So
that
then we
is.
I've
can't
never heard of
answer
that.
that, Brady. I apologize.
Pete's Dragon?
Does
Definitely
it
not
also,
fast food.
Does
Hold on,
this
move it up.
also mean McDonald's is a coffee shop?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't work that way.
No, McDonald's sells coffee.
Correct.
But they're not able to make.
Starbucks went from a coffee shop to being fast food. If McDonald's were to go from fast food to being a coffee shop, they'd have to just drop everything else and just be a coffee shop.
They do have frappes and stuff. But I think the point is that they have McDonald's has fast food and a variety of coffee beverages now.
And they don't
even
really
have latte.
I don't think they're leaning into it as much as they used to. I know at one point they actually were trying to compete with Starbucks. Like they were like, we have a better coffee than Starbucks. You know, you need to come to us. But I don't know that they're leaning in. And plus, half the time, like, I don't know how often you guys go to McDonald's, but I have a
Very
kid.
rarely.
Yeah. But their shit's down. I'm sorry. Their stuff's down all the time.
Wait. Why are you
Wait, yeah,
apologizing?
why-
I don't
for
know.
saying
I don't
shit?
know. I just.
We need to have him. Next question for you, Jonathan. Do we cuss on this podcast?
Yeah, that's true. We have, but anyways, their ice cream machines and everything's down like
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah, they're
So
not.
it's-
There's
yeah.
whole like articles on how their ice cream machines are terrible. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they've slimmed their menu down so much, you know. So I don't think they're even trying anymore.
I think you have to ask the question if you had to take out a lot of the bells and whistles of what a company did and return it to its roots, what would it be? And Starbucks would be a coffee shop, and McDonald's would be fast food. And that's
Listen,
kind
there's
of
two
their
words in
definition.
fast food. If they sell food and they try to do it quickly, I think that's fast food. If they have a drive-through, that's pretty much my only requirement, being fast food.
Here's a good question from Tom on Twitter, who asks, for Jonathan and Aaron, here's the question. What qualities does a movie need to become an all-time favorite?
Ooh.
I have no idea. I tried to think about this. I mean, there are
Personally, right? It's a personal question.
Personal question,
Like,
yeah.
I guess, you know, if my wheelhouse, like if it's a good murder mystery, like that's probably going to set it a little higher for me than like say a really good romantic comedy.
Yeah.
Or something. But I think I don't know. But I love so many different types of movies. So I think it's probably, I'm a big structure guy. That's one thing, which is why I've said in the past I have a problem with Christopher Nolan sometimes, because I don't think he cares that much about the structures of his films, at least some of them.
Yeah.
Tenet's probably a different, is an example of where he does. But so I really like structure. So when you get like that perfectly like just structured film, I think that's when you get, for me, you get like Witness of the Prosecution, you get Jaws,
Yeah.
you get Singing in the Rain,
Yeah.
Pulp Fiction, you know, so Jackie Brown, whatever. So I think that is, for whatever reason, that's a big thing with me. But I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, aesthetic. Just the atmosphere it creates. That's the main reason I like horror films, because I just love the atmosphere of like Halloween and like, you know, dark places and houses, you know, creepy houses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of, I guess those are things that set it a little higher for me.
My go-to answer is like I have certain things, certain parts of me that movies have to activate, right? Like,
So you like porn?
so porn is basically what I'm talking about. No, but I mean, it does kind of sound a little sensual. Like, these are basically my movie erogenous zones, right? Like,
Yeah. No, I know.
Great.
That's
Great.
but that's what I'm saying. Like for me, like if it's like if it's set, like if the movie does, I mean, it might not be a good movie, but like it automatically gets points for me if it's set like around Halloween or around fall.
right.
That automatically, like I'm more interested in what's going
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
Now,
totally.
it doesn't mean it's going to be a good movie, but at least I'm more tuned in.
So if I'm going to call something an all-time favorite, it has to activate all three of my movie erogenous zones: my mind, my heart, and my gut. And
Yeah.
it either has to do one of those really well and the other two okay, or all of them pretty good, or like if it's going to be a favorite. And so like it has to give me something to think about, it has to give me something to feel, and it has to give me something to react to. You know, the gut thing is a little more nebulous, but it's
I was
kind of
going
like,
to say the gut thing could be bad. It could make you sick. Or,
well, sure. Yeah, but what I mean in that case is like,
I know what you're saying.
like eye candy is a gut thing, right? Like a movie
Yeah.
that's like really big and bombastic, that's a gut thing. A movie that's sensual, that's a gut thing. You know, something that
Yeah.
makes me react.
No, that's a better answer.
So if it touches on all three of those zones, it's got a good chance with me, especially if it's real. You know, a real, like I think of The Prestige, right? Just a real.
Oh, yeah. That's another great
thinker
example.
movie. It's also got a real emotional, you know, heart to it. That's why it's my favorite of Nolan. You know,
Yeah, that structure. Okay, forget what I said about Nolan. I was just thinking about The Dark Knight specifically.
Yeah.
That's my problem with The Dark Knight, is the structure of The Dark Knight is so crazy.
Yeah.
And it just really bothers me. And
Yeah.
like, so I have so yeah. But anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. So yeah, if you look through my list of favorite movies, you'll see a lot of movies that, you know,
Yeah.
activate that kind of stuff.
That makes sense.
You know, my favorite movie of all time is actually light on the head part. I mean, there's a little thinking to it, but it's mostly heart and gut. Mostly gut. Singing in the Rain is just one of those movies that just makes me feel stuff all the way through, and I just joy and exuberance, and so yeah.
I think Singing in the Rain also, think about that specifically, is it does such a, like, movies about movies a lot of the times are not very good because I think that it's so ridiculous what they're, like, it's amazing. Like, when you look at movies within movies, they're always just so ridiculous. Like, you're like, that would never be a movie. And unless it's just full on parody or something, like UHF, I guess it's fine, but like Singing in the Rain, just, I don't know, it just like it gets movies more than I think most movies like that do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really get talked about in that venue. Most people talk about it as a musical. Usually when you see like ranks of like movies about movies, I don't feel like Singing in the Rain's always up there, but it should be.
It should be. I love that our fans know us well enough to ask Jonathan and I that question and not you.
Well, Tom continues and says, for Danae.
Hey, you get your own question.
I know. Thank you, Tom. Before CinemaSins and becoming a parent, what things made you want to actually see a movie?
Oh, okay.
What a thoughtful question.
Yeah.
So this it was interesting for me to think about this. I don't know that I've ever been the kind of person that's wanted to go to the movie theater. I think the only time that happened to me was Lord of the Rings. And
I think a little bit Star Wars. I was around you when like
I was excited to go see
Force
how that
Awakens
one
came out.
continued. Yeah, that's true. But here's the interesting qualifier. I didn't want to see the first ones.
Right.
It was on both of those occasions, Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, I was excited to see the second and the third one because I saw the quality and I saw what they were doing, and I was curious to see the artistic expression of the story.
You had read Lord of the Rings, though,
But
right?
I had read Lord of the Rings, but I did not want to go see. I wanted to go see it really, really, really bad, but I was also really afraid to see it because I loved the material so much. I didn't.
Yeah, you
I
definitely
didn't know how to interact. So
yeah, because I mean, as a reader myself, I don't get as bothered by people changing stuff, but I know just from talking to you, that is something that kind of
I was very worried. But I was seeing the images that were coming out. I was seeing the promotional material, and I was seeing how beautiful it looked, and I wanted to be in that world. So I think for me, I would have to say, if I see a world I want to explore, I will go in. Like Dune, for example, is one that I kind of want to go see what the world is.
Sure.
Yeah, don't watch the 84 one though.
More than I am like, I want to go see this movie. It's more,
Right.
It's more, what are they doing? Or when we did Alita Battle Angel, I was like, oh, what is this world that they're building? And I think that comes from my imaginative.
What's he building in there?
Man, I hope they make more Alita Battle Angels.
I do too. And I think that comes from just my imaginative sort of space. But to be honest with you, and you know that I forget my experiences with movies a lot, so this is not surprising, but I can't remember a time when I was like, let's go see this movie. I'm just not built that way.
Yep.
But I appreciate that you asked me that question. This one comes from Matt, who asks, this is going to be an interesting one, who are the saltiest, thirstiest, and most profane writers on the Sins team?
I'll say I think we're all have our moments.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But like, I guess the one that surprises me the most is when it's Aaron.
Yeah.
And the one that surprises me the least is Barrett. So
Yeah, that's a really good way to
What
answer
were
that.
the three
and I don't know,
adjectives?
like Ian and Daniel,
Yeah, we'll have to get to know them
I
a little
haven't
bit
really
better.
like I've done a couple things with Ian, but I haven't done anything with Daniel, so I haven't really gotten like what
Yeah.
there is.
Saltiest,
Horniest?
horniest.
No, wait, no. Wait.
Oh, that's right.
Well,
There
hold
was
on.
multiple things.
Chris replies with this
Okay.
and says, Barrett clearly writes the horniest and profane,
Okay.
and Jeremy clearly writes the saltiest. But Matt asks, salty, thirsty, and profane. So thirsty, I guess, would be the horniest.
What is salty though? Like what?
I guess.
I think that's a
Like
quick to
bite.
anger kind of thing. Like
I
salt
think
when you're
that
salty, you're like angry.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah.
that's more Danae. I
Yeah.
mean, Jeremy's. It would be Jeremy or Danae.
I've
Yeah.
gotten better at it.
I mean, you are definitely the least salty.
yeah,
I would agree
Aaron's the
with that.
least salty.
Yeah. But I may be close to the most thirsty, if I'm understanding that word correctly.
Like
where
that's the
I
horny
think
one.
about
That's
sex
the
a lot.
horny- yeah.
Especially in my writing, I definitely go towards like the
But you-
perverted jokes more.
But you
Yeah.
think about sex in more of a curiosity way.
Yes.
It's you're not. Yeah. Like.
I mean,
we don't need to get more detailed.
too
than that.
open into my
Sorry.
my
No,
sex
I'm
life.
just saying,
but
like,
yeah.
but I don't think of that as. I guess I don't think of that as thirsty, but maybe that is because thirst for knowledge. So,
For sexual knowledge.
but it doesn't. I mean, everybody definitely writes some stuff. I mean, even Jeremy. I mean, I've worked on Jeremy with scripts where I'll be like, damn, where did that come from? You know, it'll be like,
yeah.
I wrote one recently that includes a masturbatory sock. And Jonathan's response was, ha ha, ew. So we all have our moments, but I think the one that I would say who the most profane is, I think it would be between Barrett and Jonathan, or Jeremy.
That's what I was going to say. Barrett and Jeremy both get pretty profane.
I think I might write more curse words.
I write curse words too.
Yeah, and you write a lot too. But I don't know if that's necessarily the same as profane.
Yeah.
The word I use for Barrett especially is transgressive. Like he really enjoys like figuring out where the line is and going across it. Like there's a real, which is, it can be a really funny and fun thing, in that context.
I've definitely gone across the line a few times, but then I'll just leave it in. So I'd be like, just look at this crazy bullshit I wrote. I know we're not keeping this, but just look at it.
But that's an interesting question, because we're all trying to capture our version of the narrator.
Correct. That's the important thing to remember.
Who is the salty, profane, guy.
Right.
So we all have that voice, and maybe it shifts a little bit for each channel. Commercial sins is an interesting one, but we're still all trying to find that narrator voice. So yeah.
But I've gotten to where I do go back and look at when I'm re-looking at my script, I make sure I make sure I don't have I don't know, sometimes I just feel like fuck is so easy. So sometimes I try to think of something else.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And I'll go back and change a lot of those out, because I'll just put them in real quick and then I'll go back and change them.
I haven't written a good insult sin in a while. And I remember I just had this memory of my first few months full time on the team, thinking I need to get better at this. And so I actually looked up this really 10 amazing insults that'll leave your opponent in tears or something. And I was like, yeah.
It's your insult match.
Yeah. Here's a hard shift away from that topic from Sean on Twitter, who asks, what's your favorite cheese?
Provolone. That makes so much sense for me. But,
bland cheese, just a bland
Provolone
cheese.
is actually my least favorite. Is what I wrote down.
I'm sure it's lots of people's. I love the way it melts and just how mild it is.
I will say, I don't go out of my way to try. I'm sure I've had Munster and stuff, but I don't know. So as
Munster's
far as the
good.
cheese I've actually had, Provolone just is a little too sharp for me most of the time, so I tend to stay away from it.
I love sharp cheddar.
Sharp cheddar's fine.
But there was actually a cheese, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but my friend came back from Italy and she brought back specialty cheese, and I don't know what it was. It was white, slightly crumbly, and it had fruit in it. Just veins of really powerful pops of, I think it was blueberry, and it was the most incredible cheese.
That's amazing.
I had way too much of it, and I suffered greatly, but it was delicious.
I want to change my answer.
Okay.
I just remembered there's this amazing cheese spread called Winschuler's Bar Schlees. And it comes in a little tub.
That sounds like you'd get it you'd get it with one of those baskets.
So there was a bar called Winschuler's in Detroit, I think, and they were well known for their cheese spread, and so they started to package it. It is the most incredible thing I've ever put on a cracker.
I wrote down pepper jack, but I will say
I love pepper jack.
My
too.
full-on favorite cheese though is that white cheese you get at Mexican restaurants.
Queso.
Queso.
But they do it like it's like string cheese or whatever. It's shredded, and that is queso. I guess that queso is amazing.
Chris responds with smoked Gouda. It's fucking fantastic. Jeremy says his favorite cheese is extra sharp cheddar. The sharper, the better. Barrett says blue cheese. Now, Sean had other elements of this. Overrated cheese. What's the most overrated cheese? I'm going to say Cheese Whiz. That's so...
I'm actually sorry. Cheddar would be mine.
It's okay. Do you have an overrated cheese, Aaron?
No.
Jeremy answers this one by saying pimento or Munster. And Barrett says brie. Fight me.
I don't really like brie.
Sean continues, what's the your most hated cheese? Jeremy answers this by saying Colby Jack, which is the vanilla bland ass motherfucker from Yuppieville.
Colby, I don't have a problem with Colby Jack, but it's not one I go for. My wife loves Colby Jack, so we do have it and stuff. But
it's like the marbled version of provolone and cheddar.
Swiss is also overrated in my opinion. Swiss to me is really bland.
I hate Swiss cheese.
It just doesn't taste like anything to me.
So Sean then responds to his own tweet with an additional question that no one has answered. If it pops into your head, feel free. But the best use of cheese in a movie.
Oh no! I
Yeah.
knew this. For me, it's The Mask. I mean, that was immediately what I thought of when he did that. There is a scene in The Mask where Jim Carrey is in jail and his dog is there and he's trying to get his dog to get the keys. Do you remember this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then there's a piece of cheese on the desk by the guard, like a sandwich or something, and the dog picks up the cheese, and then Jim Carrey just goes, "Not the keys, the cheese." And I don't know why, but that has always just killed me. It's like such a sweet moment, and it's funny. And
That is great. I have to go with Wallace and Gromit in all the various instances of their love of cheese. So yeah,
because I'm thinking of the song "There Are No Cats in America and the Streets Are Paved with
that's
Cheese."
a good one. That's a
I'm
good
gonna
one.
go with American Tail.
Nice.
On that one.
God, I haven't seen that since I was a kid.
This one's from Pete, who says, "What distraction pulls you out of sin watching something?" And while you guys think of your answer to this one, Chris says, "A fascinating plot issue." Is his answer to this question. Chris continues by saying, "I stopped watching Endgame for sin's purposes and just watched straight to the end without sinning because of the time travel stuff. And I wanted to know it backwards and forwards before I started sinning it again." So that's what pulls Chris out of a sin watching experience. I will actually follow up with that and say I'm often pulled out of a sin brain during my first watch because there does come a moment when you're not, at least for me, I'm not able to sin it like I can because the story is trying to resolve itself and kind of come to this moment, and you don't even know what you could sin because you don't know what the movie is doing yet. And so every single time I watch a movie, they're just right in that transition to like the third act. I usually have to just completely watch it and my brain just turns off. I can't sin. Like maybe I'll see something like that I think, oh, maybe I can sin this. So for example, I'll be kind of writing down notes like she's wearing high heels outside.
Yeah.
And I'll make like a quick little bullet point list, but I really can't develop the flavor of an actual sin because the movie is trying to do something. And until I know what it's doing, it's difficult to kind of find my pacing.
I don't force myself to do that. And yeah, I definitely don't force myself to write sins anymore the first time through. Even if I've seen the movie, I'll usually just watch it. If something comes to me, I'll make a note or I'll write a sin. And then the second time through, or the pieces I have. I don't go through necessarily the whole movie a second time, but I'll go through, like maybe I'll have 30 minutes of no sin, so I'll go back through that. But for me, I think it's just YouTube because I'll go look up an outtake and then all of a sudden these other things will pop up and then I'll just go down this rabbit hole of like YouTube stuff and that distracts me definitely.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm trying to process the question because they're two. It almost seems like some of the answers are what pulls you further into sin brain and what actually takes you out of sin brain. Like, anytime I try to write an alliteration, like a really strong alliteration, I'm going to spend some time on that and have to look up words and different things like that. But that's almost pulling me further into sin brain, not necessarily stopping me sinning. As far as like taking me out of sin brain, outtakes. And I've stopped looking up the YouTube videos during writing sins because of that, because of, taking so long to get to them. But still, if an outtake comes to me, even if I jot down the notes, I have to force myself to get out of outtake brain and back into sin brain because they, for me, and I don't know if it's true for everybody, for me, they are so different. Like I have to hard shift like out of that. So yeah, if I see a great outtake, I'll find myself writing more great outtakes. And forgetting that I'm actually supposed to be sinning the movie.
I mean, the easy answer here is my child pulls me out of sin watching.
Right, yes. But your child's not in the movie.
Great question. This one comes from Phoenix King, who just quickly asks, I know Dicer has Sif Pop, but do Jonathan or Danae have any other side projects that you're working on? I love the show. Thank you. So Ian and I are working on a side project right now called Captain's Pod, and there's more to come on that. So I do have a side project with Ian, but like individually, I am mostly just focused on trying to develop content for my Twitch channel. So it's not a podcast, but you can go watch like video on demand style. Aaron and I do a show on Mondays together that you can see on Twitch as well. But like personal own content, it'll likely be just me talking about the video game that I'm playing, possibly getting lost on some bunny trails, maybe pulling my guitar out and singing a song every once in a while. I really just want to get more into that rhythm. And I think my goal is to start doing that on Tuesdays. I don't know when this audio is going to be coming out. And so I hope it's not another one of those things where I really want to do something and then the audio comes out in 2 years and I still haven't done it. So if that happens, I'll just have to kind of reassess why this always happens to me.
Well, you won't know because it's not like you'll listen to this when it comes out.
No, I won't.
Anyway, so.
There's also a whole podcast and branding thing that I did called Tots and Sass, which was supposed to be another outlet for me individually, but I waffle when it comes to just me. If I'm working with someone and I have a partner, man, I am like all in, let's go. But if it's just me doing it, I always have a really hard time with my own projects, just personally.
I don't have anything specific going on. Chris and I want to do a podcast again at some point, but once again, like we talked about earlier, you don't want to force anything. It's more just trying to come up with the best thing, and I'm sure that will happen eventually. Maybe by the time this comes out, it will have happened. I do want to write a book at some point. I really want to write a book, but finding the time to do that between this job and then just my daughter has stuff that I spend time with her, my family, and. It all, then all of a sudden the week's over and you start back up. But I don't know. I think I might mess with some of that this fall because typically around what is it? It's August now, but typically we have some downtime, a little bit of downtime in December, or, at least with CinemaSins. So I might be dabbling into that. I have ideas and I've done some outlining and stuff, but I haven't actually gotten into the meat of it yet. So we'll see.
Good question. Here's one from Joseph Davis who asks, what is something that is live action and you think it would be better animated? Polly responds this and says, I'd like to see a live action Nightmare Before Christmas and also vice versa.
There's things I'd like to see, but I don't know if there's anything. I couldn't think of anything that would be better.
I was thinking about this too because I do love, animated things, and you can do so many different things with, animation. So there's I was thinking of things that were really silly, like CSI Miami animated, which doesn't make any sense at all. Or like Good Place animated. These things where, just a normal show that you're watching that you turn into an animation.
Like an animated slasher film. That'd be weird.
Yeah, it would be. Vice versa, I can think of a lot of things that would be really fun to see live action because I love the world. So if you go like Kipo and the Age of the Wonder Beast, but then you can't do so much because of the style of the animation. Like I would love to see it because I think if they did it well, it would be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts the other way. Like animation to live action, I have a lot of things that I would really like to see and think be fun. I don't know why it is, but going from live action to animation always feels like a downshift to me in some ways because of how much you can do with live action now. Animation was always a great way to be creative in a way that you couldn't do with live action. And now with computers and so many different things, you can almost do all of it with, live action, maybe not as easily. But
because you have to make it almost like seamless.
Well, I'm thinking of crazy things like Darren Aronofsky films. Like, Mother is one of my favorite films. But like, is Mother animated? Like, is he able to do more? Like with the metaphors and, the visuals that he wants. I don't know. That's a pretty amazing visual film in live action.
Or like Noah.
Yeah, or Noah. Yeah, like I'm trying to think of those things. And I really couldn't. But like the one that I go back to is Last Airbender, and of course, M. Night infamously tried it and completely failed. They're trying to do it again at Netflix, and the creators left that project, and so like it's just like they're still going to do it. Netflix is still going to do it, and I'm super nervous about it. But I would love to see that world actually realized, in a live action kind of way. But
like with maybe the Transformers movies, maybe those could be better animated. I don't know because you'd still have Michael Bay, so not that he's terrible, but I don't know, something about that. Those movies are just idiotic in a way that I didn't realize was possible. But and then also there's this movie that came out a couple summers ago, Lion King. I think that'd be a pretty good animated. I think that might have been better animated.
Or like Cruella live action, but animated like 101 Dalmatians style or something.
Or like Aladdin with Will Smith. I think that would have been a good animated.
Yeah, that could make a good animated film. That's true.
I'm really glad that you brought that up because that was one of the things I thought. I was like, this one's from Scott, who asks, if you could change one Best Picture Oscar award, which one would it be And why is it Forrest Gump? Now, here's why I'm glad that you asked that question, because my answer is Forrest Gump. I don't know why. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't remember this being a thing. I love Forrest Gump, though, so if it didn't win, it should have. Chris said...
No, he said Forrest Gump won.
Oh, well, then it should have won.
He's saying, but the thing about Forrest Gump, I don't know which movie he's specifically talking about.
Oh.
But I'm guessing it's Pulp Fiction or Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, was that... they were all up at the same time?
Yeah, and actually,
geez.
I like his answer, but I think I'd be one of the few that would say yes, but I would put Quiz Show.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
that
was
was
my
love Quiz Show.
I
They were
love
all
Pulp
there.
Fiction. I love Pulp Fiction, but I like Quiz Show better.
What's wild to me about this question, as somebody who doesn't follow the awards and stuff, is thinking like all of those movies being up at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And having the advantage of reflection and time, and they all still are really
that's
good movies.
That's a pretty powerful year. I mean, Forrest Gump. I mean, I don't hear as much people talk about it, but like if you have cable, like it's on all the time. I mean,
Listen,
it's still a very easily accessible movie, and it's broadcast a lot.
One of the random facts about Danae is if you ask me what movie have I seen the most, it's Forrest Gump.
I love Forrest Gump.
I watched that movie so many times.
I don't really completely get why people have turned on it. I don't know, and I don't know that people like just full on. I mean, I guess people do hate it. People hate everything, but I don't know. I think that's a really good movie.
Chris responded to your question, Scott, by saying Forrest Gump is definitely a good Best Picture redo. It should be Pulp Fiction or Shawshank. And then he continues by saying Titanic should be rescinded for L.A. Confidential.
That's a good one.
King's Speech.
Totally disagree with that. Titanic was.
Titanic's, but that doesn't mean Titanic's bad. I just think L.A. Confidential is a better movie.
Yeah, sure.
He says King's Speech should lose to Social Network.
Yes.
This person said one, but fuck it. Those are all really good examples that I would never have known. And it's hard because you do have a lot of opinion, and then time, like I said, reflects, and you think, what are the standout things that...
Well, and there's even movies that weren't nominated. Chris and Jeremy and I were talking about Almost Famous. I mean, that's easily my favorite film from 2000. I mean, it's not even close, and that wasn't even nominated.
Yeah.
It was in Gladiator, which I do like Gladiator, but it's I don't know, that's such a weird year.
Gladiator. I didn't even know Gladiator.
Mine, are you still looking? I can answer real quick.
I was looking at 89. Driving Miss Daisy, I don't think should have won Best Picture. And I was just trying to think.
What was it up against?
I think Field of Dreams is probably the one I would have.
What else was it up against?
Made it. Born on the 4th of July, Dead Poets Society, My Left Foot.
It's weird. I've had a real love-hate relationship with Dead Poets Society. I didn't like it for a long time. Now I kind of love it. So it might be in that conversation. Mine was easy, though. 1941. I love How Green Was My Valley. That is a great movie. That is actually Alex Trebek's favorite movie, trivia.
Oh, nice.
But Citizen Kane not winning Best Picture. I mean, especially now. It's insane to me. I mean, I just don't know how you don't let Citizen Kane win. Talk about a movie that's big and a movie that completely changes filmmaking. I mean, I feel like that's what we should be giving stuff like Best Picture to. You know?
Here's another good example. In 99, American Beauty won in Sixth Sense, probably was, the more seismic film.
I don't even think, I probably would have gone I don't even know, 99, man, Eyes Wide Shut, Magnolia. There's just so many films to choose from that year. I mean, Jeremy would say The Matrix.
Well, I was going to say, it's funny to look at the nominees in 99 and how many aren't on there. But
I know.
Was
it Green Mile nominated?
Yeah, Green Mile, Cider House Rules, The Insider, and The Sixth Sense. Of the ones nominated, Sixth Sense should have won.
I would go Insider with the ones nominated with Sixth Sense right behind it. Green Mile is good.
Sure.
I don't think it should be nominated for Best Picture. Cider House Rules sucked.
Yeah.
I remember that was terrible.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a great question.
But wait, I've got 30 more years I could talk about.
I think every year. What are the chances that your actual favorite film that year is won? I mean, it's probably pretty rare if you actually go back and look through the years. Yeah. Raiders of the Lost Ark losing to Chariots of Fire.
Right.
E.T. losing to Gandhi. I mean, those are, Jaws lost to...
Back to the Future was nominated, wasn't it?
Jaws lost to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It wasn't nominated for Best Picture. It was nominated for Best Screenplay.
Oh, okay.
It should have won Best Screenplay, but it didn't.
But now on to the most important question from Frank Kemp, who asked, boxers or briefs?
Boxer briefs.
That is what Jeremy said.
Yeah. I briefly wore boxers.
And Barrett says a thin layer of gabardine.
Yeah, Aaron's is neither.
Gabardine? Do you guys know what that is?
I have no idea what that is.
All right, I'm
I
looking this
saw
up.
that. I had no idea what he's talking about. I thought it was funny too. Barrett copied over Jeremy's answers.
Oh, okay, gabardine is.
It's like Barrett's like, here are my answers, and then it was like, well, Chris and I started CinemaSins. I was like, what is this?
Gabardine is apparently a smooth, durable, twill-woven cloth, typically of worsted or cotton. Thank you for teaching us about that today.
Yeah.
I think we've answered this question before, but this one's from Scott, who says, "What's a video that you would have loved to write on but didn't get the chance to?" Fifth Element for me.
Oh,
Yeah,
That's a good choice.
I love the Fifth Element. I think now that I've been in here long enough, I kind of think it would be fun to just like watch it and give it a little bit of love, but then
When
also
was
send
that one? That was
It like
that an
6
early
years
one?
ago. I think.
Okay.
It was a while ago.
I love tackling like, favorite movies. So I thought of Seven would have been a really fun one for me. Silence of the Lambs would have been really fun, I think, because I enjoy that challenge of tackling movies that I really love.
Yeah, me as well. Yeah, any of the Pixar movies that I wasn't around for.
Oh yeah.
Any of the Nolan, Prestige, I already mentioned that one. That would have been fun to send. Inception would have been fun to send. Yeah, there's a bunch I would.
I don't know.
enjoyed.
Like Nolan sounds like headache inducing though. Like even if I love the movie, like I just going
listen,
through that.
Now that I've seen Tenet, I feel like I can send
my
anything.
God. I have never been. I mean, I never am unhappy with an assignment.
Sure.
I'll take anything, but I wasn't like sad I didn't get that one.
Yeah.
I was like, God, I don't even know where I'd start. And you guys, that was another one where I think Chris had to like step back. Maybe you did too.
Yeah, we talked a lot.
Yeah.
This one's about insta-sinning comes from the Deciphered Code, which who asks, "What made you want to do insta-sins?"
Because we thought we'd get more views. I mean,
have you encountered
right?
any troubles? Yes. And do you think it will ever be possible to do an insta-sin for a movie?
Yes.
well, it would have to be,
Streaming.
yeah,
Yeah, it would have to be streaming.
or direct to video or something.
Or direct to video, yeah, something like that. It's an interesting question. It's funny because giving it the name InstaSyn was probably the best thing we did because it kind of makes it this fun like event kind of thing. But the idea has always been to send things as quickly as we can. It's just that with movies,
You have to wait till they
for
come
the
out
Blu-ray to come out to
Yep.
be able to do it, and so it's not publicly available in that way.
But the streaming things, it's a very interesting thing because we can all kind of watch it and jump on it and as fast as we possibly can.
and all TV is streaming somewhere, publicly immediately.
So it definitely has changed things, and it has been a lot of fun. The final question was, what's one of your favorite that you have InstaSend and why? I think like we could collectively say Rick and Morty because our audience on TV Sins loves Rick and Morty, and so to be able to do it as we go is fun. So we could say that because of the views and stuff, but I think mine is WandaVision because there was a mystery happening at the same time, and it was such a mind fuck to try to figure out how to send something that you don't know if it's going to answer itself or if something's going to appear later on in like episode 4 that completely undoes something that you wrote in episode 1. And then of course you guys know we put them together in this sort of like seasonal recap where you're going to see if we messed our own sins up, and we really had to kind of puzzle piece our minds together. And I think WandaVision was, with Mandalorian, it was a little bit of that too, a little bit, but WandaVision was more specifically that mystery, and that was an interesting thing to experiment with.
Well, we were all three on every episode, whether we were shadowing or writing.
Yeah.
Then we watched them and we talked about them Friday before we did Behind the
Yep.
Scenes. So that was just kind of a fun thing that we all shared.
I really
too.
liked that one a lot.
My answer is Mandalorian, actually, and I think a lot of it has to do with
I forgot we did. 'Cause that was second season, right?
It was season 2.
Yeah,
and
I totally
It was
forgot.
our first InstaSyn, right? Was Mandalorian season 2? Wasn't that the first one we did?
Did we not?
Oh,
yeah.
no, we did the second half of Rick and Morty season 5. We did those
Yes.
5 episodes. Those were the first ones.
And
Anyway,
that was that was the whole
Or season 4.
taking out the commercials. That was headache inducing trying to figure out what the time frames were, timestamps were.
but my answer is Mandalorian because I love the Skywalker thing at the end. I love that we got a chance. Ever since I had seen the Red Wedding episode of Game of Thrones, and had Jeremy was doing the narration on TV Sins at that time, and kind of had the narrator do like an emotional reaction, and then Cinny trying to like respond to what the narrator was doing during the Red Wedding, that kind of stuff. I was like, how amazing would it have been to release that when that was all happening? And that's kind of where the seed of the InstaSyn was, like, you know. And so to be able to have a big fan moment like that and have the narrator freak out and Cinny try to, you know, keep up with, like, that was kind of a culminations is a weird word because that almost sounds like an end, but it was, you know, a culmination of that idea of being able to experience a fun event with the fans in kind of the moment it's happening.
Yeah.
That second half of that Rick and Morty season, though, we were glad to see how well it worked, but that was not fun because we just had to learn as we went how we needed to schedule them.
Correct.
Because that was like Mondays were just a pain in the ass.
Well,
like, it was crazy.
We really went for it with that first one. It was like, it airs Sunday. We want it written Monday. We want it produced on Tuesday, and we're going to throw it on the channel as quickly as possible. And I think what we realized was it's okay to schedule ourselves the ability to write these things well, produce them well, because many of them are going to, you know, possibly have to wait for a little bit anyway through the claims process, whatever. So yeah, I like the way we do it now, but you're right that those 5 episodes were intense.
It was fun, but it was intense. It was a lot more intense. But by the time we got even Mandalorian, I think we were trying to turn those around at least within a few days. So it got a little better. And then now we've got it. We've figured it out. The least anxiety way to do it.
Yeah.
And then I kind of joked about getting more views, but we figured, like, you know, this is what people were watching now. This is like the water cooler show. I mean, I don't know if we have water cooler shows anymore, but that was kind of the idea, was to hit those when people are most interested in them, because we've done shows that were very popular. Like Sopranos, but it's just when we did it, like, just nobody really cared about Sopranos anymore. Now, you know, there's a movie coming out. I mean, those are evergreen, right? Because there's like a movie coming out, that video might get some, you know, people might discover it. I mean, I had somebody the other day say, you guys should send Suits. And I was like, we have, here you go.
Yeah.
All 90 minutes of the pilot.
Yeah, we've just been experimenting with format on TVSyn side the last year, and finding the InstaSyn kind of it kind of brought us to the table in a more present and active way. And so, you know, we don't always get a chance to do that. I've really liked it. I think it's a very it brings a lot of energy to our writing too, because we're just all at the writing table together. I mean, not literally, but, you know, in our minds, just putting the best effort that we can in, because we know that people are actively watching and paying attention to it.
Yeah,
so,
and it's allowed those full season videos, which people love. And it's been really cool.
Good question. This one comes from Fridge Rain, who asked this question, and Chris did answer this one. If there is nothing faster than light, how did the dark get there first? Chris answers, because there is no such thing as dark, and we only perceive it in the absence of light. Thank you for that question. Moving on.
I had no answer for that one.
There you go. That's the answer.
This one's from Sid's Objective, who asks, what's your personal record for the number of tabs open for a CinemaSins research?
This is more you two, I think. I close my tabs pretty frequently.
Like,
you do, Jeremy does, and Barrett does,
I will tell you, I always have, okay, so, I mean, just outside of the sinning, I always have Gmail and Slack up. Like, I almost always have those up in case you guys are trying to get in touch with me or whatever. And then I obviously have the script tab up because we use the docs now. And then I typically have the IMDb page up for whatever I'm working on, just because if I have to reference a cast member, occasionally Wikipedia. And then I always have YouTube up. But when I go do, like, if I have to research something else, if I have to look something up, once I've looked it up, I close it. So
that's wild.
Why is that wild,
well,
though?
It's just,
I don't know. It's just not how I operate.
Well, I get, like, I genuinely, and this might be Jeremy too, I'm not going to speak for him, but I genuinely get, like, anxiety if there's too many tabs up.
Sure.
Like, it starts bothering me.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, Jeremy says, at one time, I usually close tabs when I'm done with them. I think the most research I ever did for a sin was Now You See Me, and it was a sin I had to cut because I was super wrong about it and had totally misunderstood a thing. I did maybe close 2 hours of close to 2 hours of research on that one. It's embarrassing. Stop making me talk about it.
I thought that was Barrett's answer. Nobody's even going to get that joke.
Barrett responds and says, like Jeremy, I'm a serial tab closer, so I only have 2 to 3 open at once. And I'm telling you right now, I easily can have up to 20 tabs open on my computer at a time.
No
Easy.
problem.
No, you guys have said that, and I'm just like, Urgh.
But it's even worse because I also have 4 windows open
Me too.
from different accounts.
Yes.
So I have my CinemaSins account, I have my Studio DNA account, I have my personal account, and I'll hop back and forth, and each one may have upwards of 10 tabs open.
Oh, and then obviously I have the video, so I have that. I guess that's technically a tab. What is it? What do we use?
VLC.
VLC,
So I
that's what I use.
Yeah, I have VLC, Slack, usually Word. I usually have about
VLC
2 or
is a program.
3.
VLC is not in
Well,
browser.
by the way, when did they start having that subtitle thing? I'm so glad you showed me that, where you can look up subtitles.
Yeah. Well, I just from the beginning of me using it, so I've
I
only,
thought
it's
I thought
been there for a
initially
while.
you guys went to a site
we
and
did,
downloaded them.
We
but
did.
then Chris figured out how to do that.
Oh.
You guys don't know what we're talking about, but listen, we have to read a lot of subtitles, and so sometimes a show won't have a subtitle on it, and we actually have to go hunt down the subtitles. That's the
I've had a couple
know.
where there weren't any, but
Yeah.
that's nice.
I know yesterday I'd accidentally closed out a window, and when you go to recently close, it'll say open this many tabs or whatever, and it was 36. It said open 36 tabs, and I was like, yep, open them back up.
Yep.
And that's my baseline. That's not writing. When I'm writing, I have the
Guys,
script.
Jonathan is sweating.
Oh, my daughter does this though. When I go to my daughter's and she's got a Mac too, which is it's more of a pain to get everything closed for some reason for me, but she has so many up, and I'm just like, you've got to close those before I can help you. I'm done.
When I start a script, I immediately open about 5 or 6 tabs of, like you said,
Yeah, that's
IMDb,
what I do,
different things like that. And then every time I do research, I leave those open in case I want to go back to them. And it's nice because it's all contained in my script window. So like I pull the script out and then all the research I'm
Gotcha.
doing. And so like I'm not seeing any of my other like productivity tabs
Like
from
Gmail or
work, those
whatever.
Gmail, those kind of things. I'm just seeing my writing tabs. And sometimes those I'll see a tab that I've left open and go, "Oh, I can do a call back to that," or
Do you still
that
watch
kind of
Yeah.
the movie on a TV though? Like, did you used to do
no,
that?
I
right?
did used to watch on a TV.
But now that we have them digital,
now that we're doing more digital,
because I have to use a second monitor. I can't. You do just on the laptop, right? You click back and forth, or didn't you used to do that?
I now have like one monitor will be the and it's a separate computer.
Gotcha.
Because I got a gaming computer, so my gaming computer is where I actually air my material, and I'll
Gotcha.
just hit the space bar, and then I'll write on my laptop a lot of times.
That second monitor was a lifesaver because when I didn't even have an office set up when I first started doing this full time, and so I was like in the living room and I was just on my laptop, so I was switching back and forth, or I was watching the movie on a TV.
That's what I used to do. Yeah.
And I didn't really like either one of those scenarios.
Yeah,
but
I'm
getting
still
that
trying to
second
figure out my
monitor-
groove, but I always have tabs open like you, Aaron, and they are like little bunny chill reminders of thoughts that I have.
Oh, I got you. So, but see, yeah, because I guess I'm thinking like I look up whatever I need to look up. I write the send, and I don't need that anymore.
Yeah, I keep it up.
I keep it up, and it has occasionally led to me writing a running gag. Like I'll notice that I've still got that
Gotcha.
tab up and that kind of thing. But no, I mean, it's probably wiser to close them, I guess. I'm just like, it's also satisfying at the end when I'm done with a script to hit the X and just like close 50 tabs. Just like
Well, that's
all
like you
that's
opening up all of
gone.
them at the same time for the videos.
It's like
when
your
you do-
computer taking a massive shit. Just
Yeah.
like, get that out of my
Yeah.
system. The poor
I clear
RAM.
out my I erase files constantly too. Like I'm always like,
Yeah.
if I don't need this anymore, it's in the trash.
Good
and,
for
know.
you.
Yeah.
This one's from Pausable Movies, who says, as a member of the B-team, so either of us can answer this one, are you ever allowed outside, or is it a dungeon window your best source of sunlight?
No, we have a window.
Yeah, I have a window in my office.
and we have a little slot in the door
I
that
don't
they
usually have
feed
the
us
blinds
through.
open though.
Yeah.
Usually it's what? We get 3 crackers around noon.
Yeah, that's our snack time.
And then I think an apple, of course. We get an apple around 3 o'clock.
Do you
that
guys
comes through
forget
the
to
slot.
eat though? I forget to eat all,
All
the
the
time.
time.
And then it'll be time to go pick up my daughter and from school, and I'll be like,
I'm so hungry. Yeah,
I don't have time to make anything.
Yes, that's why I started doing the adult Lunchables thing, where I could just go and just grab the adult, just rip the
It's the
thing
best
off,
thing ever.
and then have a quick
Noon
snack.
every day. I just have an adult Lunchable.
Do they
and-
have adult Lunchables?
Yeah.
Well, they're Hillshire Farms does great
man.
ones. Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna.
Yeah,
do
they
that.
have like incredible. We're gonna go to the grocery store after this. On a serious note, no, they don't let us out.
Nope.
Send help. Okay. This one comes from Name Cannot Be Blank, who asks, why does Hollywood at large still think we don't want to know what is happening in action scenes? Chris responds to this and says, I honestly think the problem is that they can't use the real actors to do a lot of these scenes, and they have to constantly cut between the real person and the stunt person, and they can't make the star learn all the moves and do the dangerous stuff. They also don't have the time to set up a proper action scene because the release date of those films is known to too far in advance. Also, I think they believe fast-paced editing is more exciting for some reason.
I think it's interesting. I read I think it was Outlaw Vern. I think it was a review he wrote. Maybe it was of Black Widow, and he did this whole like paragraph on how just insane he thinks it is that Marvel, like Disney with these Marvel movies, with how much money they spend. He's like, they could be like setting they could be like the Matrix, like setting up new action movie trends and styles and like the way you shoot an action scene, because they have like, unlimited resources for these movies. But they, for whatever reason, like he's, I think he ended it with something like they're not even trying to be the third, or like they've settled on being the third best. Like they just don't seem to care about these action scenes, and I don't really understand it. They're not terrible. I don't think I'm quite to the level of like a lot of people are, but I do think that they, especially after watching like 20 plus movies in this universe, they do become interchangeable.
They do.
Yeah.
I think Chris is right. I think it's ROI. I think it's return on investment. I don't feel like they think that really investing in a top-notch, really cool action scene that you can watch from like one cut from a distance is worth the 10% of fanboys and fangirls that'll be like, oh, did you see that? Whereas 90% of the audience is probably just, that's the fight, who won, right? Like there's, there really is, I think. Now there's I would say they're subliminal in, things that I think everybody picks up that, that can be like, oh, I enjoyed that for some reason. I don't know why. But at the same time, I think they're probably right. I think the ROI is probably better on just doing these, because they're fine. They're fine.
Yeah, they're fine, but they're fine. But I do agree, especially with Disney. I mean, they just have so much money, and they're already putting so much money towards it. Why? I don't know.
Why not just do deep fake?
Why not go get a different coordinator or something? I don't know.
Well, you're not wrong, Danae. I mean, eventually the cost of fully CG actors is going to come down enough and be realistic enough. I'm just even
saying, like, cut to the stunt double. But
no, that's what I mean. You
deep fake their
face.
There's
no like, I'm trying to even think of like a moment in an action scene from like an MCU movie that like stands out to me. I mean, there are like dialogue moments. There's like, on your left. I mean, obviously that's a big moment, but that's not an action moment. Whereas you go, like, I think back to like movies, and maybe this is just more when you're a kid. Maybe people that were kids when these movies came out, they do have something from Iron Man that sticks out to them. I think about like Superman, like Zod realizing that he's lost his power, and or like the crane kick, or there's not like, and I'm not saying those are necessarily great action scenes, but I'm just saying like they don't even have like those like cool moments that
they've got the one that I always go back to is Captain America elevator scene. That's the one kind of
I do like that scene, because I love the whole like, are we gonna do this?
Yeah.
Or does anyone want to get off or something? Yeah. No, I because Frank Grillo's so good in that scene too. No, that's beautiful. That would be probably the one that stands out to me as well.
One of the ones, and this isn't the question, but one of the big standout all fight is Kill Bill. There's just so many.
Oh, Kill Bill's great. Yeah,
right. But that's somebody who cared about that.
Well,
stuff.
And Tarantino like knows. Like, I mean, that's his. Like, he's obsessed with that kind of stuff. So he got. I don't remember who the coordinator was, but he went and purposely got him, flew him over, and
but that's not why people go to see Marvel movies, right? Like, that's not so there's.
Yeah, and I'm starting to wonder why people do see Marvel movies. Is it just I'm serious? I mean, is it just the fanboy stuff? Is that what they're going for?
I think it's IP investment. I think it's IP investment, and it's fun.
Well, it's just fun.
It's fun. F-U-N fun.
I have friends there was a parent of one of my daughter's classmates that we become friends with. Him and his wife. He never read comics. Never picked up comics. But once he got into the MCU, he's still not reading comics, but he does research. So like he knows who all these characters are, sometimes better than I do, because he got really into it, in a way that I just never have. But that's just one movie. I'm really excited to see what happens in Matrix 4. I'm like really curious.
Yeah, good call.
What's going to be not initially the movie itself, but just I'm really curious about the action in that movie, because that I feel like, I mean, there's obviously a lot of great like foreign films and stuff, a lot of great action films overseas and stuff that are still being made. But I just feel like The Matrix feels like that was the last. Maybe like the Bourne movies. But
The
like
Bourne
The Matrix
movies
or the
were
Bourne
so,
movies.
I mean, those were so
Bourne movies are part of the
because,
problem, kind of, though,
What?
right?
Wait, what? No.
But the Bourne movies were trying new things. That's what I'm saying. I mean, even if they didn't completely succeed.
What?
Well, I will say.
Go ahead. I want to hear what Danae had.
Yeah, say what you have to say.
They cut the music out, guys.
Oh,
It
that's
was
good.
quiet.
Yeah,
And it was
I like
awful because then you could hear all of the punches.
Yeah. That's what I love about the movie Haywire. Soderbergh's Haywire is like
even
that.
if it's like we're cutting, there's so much happening. It's like it was so intense.
I just remember in the Bourne Ultimatum.
It made my stomach turn.
Before I went and saw the Bourne Ultimatum, I watched some like behind the scenes thing on it. And they were talking about how the way they sped it up and the way they filmed it, like you're literally seeing every punch. Like it's not just like cuts. You're just seeing everything. And for me, honestly, that was kind of nausea-inducing when I was watching it in the theater. Yeah. But I appreciate the attempt, at least, And I feel like stuff now, like all of these big summer blockbusters, like they're not even trying. They're just like, well, I mean, this works. People don't care. I think that's what I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think most people just don't give it.
It's ROI. Yeah.
Here's a question we cannot answer from David, who says, "How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?" This is one of the most important questions asked of all time, and we're not going to be able to answer it here today. So we're going to move on to Rob's question. Which movie did you have the most?
I believe the answer is a chuck ton.
Which movie did you have the most fun sinning? And which movie did you have the least fun sinning? This one is a hard question for me. I'm going to go answer from Chris, who says, at this point, it's been 9 years, and I always fall back on certain ones as my favorite. Sinister and the original animated Cinderella. And the most tedious was Transformers Age of Extinction. I also enjoyed doing The Room and Birdemic because you could just open up the Sins playbook.
He said one of his favorites was Cinderella.
That's what he said.
Oh, cool.
He says, if I came up with more recent fun ones, it would be Tenet because of the mental gymnastics. A bad one was Wonder Woman 1984 because it's both disappointing and terrible and forces you to stop about every 10 seconds to write something about it. This one's really hard for me because I launch things. I almost forget what it was like in the moment to write them. And I remember the final product and being proud of it more than I remember the writing experience of it. I'd have to go back and listen to Behind the Sins because I know I talk about it during the process. But some of my least favorite are obviously The Office. And What If has actually been really difficult for me too. Because there's something in me that's not having fun.
Not that any of those videos may or may not be out at this point.
Yeah.
Because I don't think people know we're doing What If. I've seen people ask if we're gonna do it.
Yeah. Well, if it's not out, that means something went awry.
That's right.
But those are hard. The ones where it's just I'm not having fun and I cannot click into sin mode. And then of course the ones that I'm having fun in. I think about The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, the animated one with Benedict Cumberbatch. I did have fun, writing on that one. Even though always writing for main channel is a bit stressful.
That's funny. One of my favorite ones is also The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, but it was the original.
Oh, with Carrie?
Oh, the TV?
The TV one.
Oh, the TV one.
That
That was
a
one of our
blast.
early TV. That was our first December, right?
I think
the
of
first
that.
Christmas.
I think of the Peanuts Halloween special was really fun.
Frosty the Snowman.
Frosty the Snowman was really fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
some of those TV specials
The
were
Great
really
Pumpkin was cool too because that was one of the first ones I remember.
Right.
It didn't go viral or anything, but I remember there was a couple articles where it referenced it and tagged us and all that kind of stuff. I just thought that was kind of cool that people, because it was around that time of season and everything.
I always go back to Skyscraper. I think that was my first writing assignment that I was like, oh, this is a blast. And it just felt like the final product came out really well. It's
That
one of
wasn't
my
even that
favorite
long
videos.
ago, was it?
Well, I mean, how long have we been writing?
I have no idea.
It's really only been a few years. So, but as far as worst, I don't know. I kind of don't remember the worst because I kind of get rid of it in my mind. But I imagine it is that experience of, especially those movies or TV shows where it's like, yeah, they're bad, but they're bad in the same way all the way through. And so you just don't have enough ways to say, this is slow.
Yeah.
This is slow. Did I mention this is slow? You know, like that kind of stuff gets a little annoying sometimes, but yeah.
I remember the first time I really had fun was, so we started, I guess, August or whatever. I did Annabelle and I did Boss Baby. And then September back then we were only doing one a week. So I think I did Flatliner. So those were my first 3. And I definitely had fun doing those, but I was still really just kind of getting into it, trying to figure out what works and all that kind of stuff. And then my first one in October was Scream 2. And that's when it just clicked for me. I also have a lot of fun with that movie, so I enjoy watching that movie, so that probably helped too. But I just remember that's when my sin brain, like, I really felt like it just clicked in. So that was a lot of fun. Oh, my least favorite, I hate doing bland comedies are just really hard. They're mind-numbing, like Danae's talking about, and it's really hard to just find anything to, like, not be bland about yourself. So probably something like Bad Moms. That was not fun. Girls Trip? Girls Trip wasn't really fun, and it's no reflection on the movies themselves. They're just kind of, I don't know. Girls Trip is better than Bad Moms. Bad Moms is actually kind of bad, but for me, in my opinion. But there's just something about that comedies that just don't connect with me, don't click with me. That I always have a hard time with those. But I typically find a way to have fun with just about anything. TV. I mean, The Office is not easy for some reason.
Yeah.
And then I will say the worst experience I had, I tell you this, CinemaSins or TV Sins, was that Office episode we did recently that dealt with suicide. That was a personal thing, but I just had a lot of. I had told Aaron, like, I'm not going to be able to finish this. Like, like I got to like minute 18, I'm like, I'm done, because they were, I don't know, but anyway,
it's too much. No. Yeah, that's true too. Sometimes there's like emotional stuff that happens that
we even almost didn't do that, because I remember Barrett even said something about maybe we shouldn't do this one, but then we figured it out. Aaron's always the good voice to have in that scenario.
Good job, Aaron.
Hey, thanks.
Here's one from Steven who asks, what is something that you tried or a place that you went solely because you saw it in a movie? Jeremy answers this question with a fish taco place from I Love You Man, Circular Car Garage from The Dark Knight, and the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville. Hell. The last one was a joke. I guess just the word hell. That was a joke.
I don't even think I've ever been to the Bluebird Cafe. Maybe when I was a kid, but like...
Mine's the Hobbit Hole.
It's weird. Well, Jeremy isn't from here, but it's always weird when you probably have places like this in Michigan. It's always weird, or like if you were from Memphis, maybe you don't go to Graceland. You know, it's just... Like when you're from a place, like you don't necessarily do the touristy stuff. Right. You know, your parents don't take you to the touristy stuff, and therefore you don't do it. You know, right. So that's always interesting to me when people talk about these things. Like, you know, we went to blah 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 and we loved it. I'm like, I've never been. I went to the Grand Ole Opry for the first time like 6 years ago. Yeah. You know, so I don't know. That's interesting.
So is this asking places we have gone to because we've seen them in movies? Hawaii is probably going to be, you know, my biggest answer. We went to Kailua Ranch, which is filmed so many different things. Lost, most specifically, most of Lost was filmed in areas of Kailua Ranch. Jurassic Park was also filmed there. But specifically, I mean, obviously, it's gorgeous. It's one of the most beautiful settings I've ever been to personally. But we specifically went to that ranch because we knew how many movies and TV shows had shot there, and to see the different, you know, things and the Lost stuff especially was so great. And of course, that was impacted by the fact that we were there in Hawaii on the premiere of the final season of Lost. Wow. And so they did a big premiere of the first episode on the beach with a big screen. And
you got to go to it?
Yeah, and all the stars were there. And
did you have to buy a ticket, or was it just if you?
No, it was public for the people in Hawaii. And
did you get to meet anyone?
I met Damon Lindelof.
Oh, nice.
He had a script under his arm.
Our huge fan of CinemaSins, Damon Lindelof.
I bet if he understood, like, you know, I could have a conversation with Damon about that.
No, he seems like a very smart guy.
I love him, but he had a script under his arm. I said, "Hey, is that a script from the final season that you're working on?" He was like, "Yes," and I was like, "What if I just grabbed it?" And he was like, "I would have to hunt you down." We had a fun conversation.
Is that fun? Is that fun?
Yes, he was laughing in that way that's like
It took I didn't go till like 2007 or so, but so it was I was probably like I was been 31, I guess. But San Francisco was a place I always wanted to go, and that was a lot, you know, like growing up watching like the Dirty Harry movies.
Sure.
Vertigo.
Yeah, definitely. There's some Vertigo stuff that you go see.
The Rock. Which was a little later, but I always wanted to go there, and now I've been a few times, and I absolutely love it there, and I just love the Bay Area. If I was to like actually move to California, that's where I'd want to be. I'd want to be in the Bay Area somewhere, And we even got to stay the first time my wife and I went. We stayed in the Fairmont, which is
nice.
I don't know. I mean, it might not be the best hotel in San Francisco, but it's like the hotel that like I think of because it's been in a lot of movies as well. The Rock, for instance, that's where Sean Connery's getting his hair cut, and then he does that whole action scene off the balcony and stuff. So we got to stay in the Fairmont for a week and just go to Alcatraz and go to eat to these places I had heard about, Man versus Food and stuff like that. I'd seen stuff on. It was so much fun. I was like, drove down the street like I bet this is where the remote control car chased the police car in the Deadpool. It was a blast. I don't get the hill system. I don't know. I know there's a geological reason it has to be that way, but that is not fun to walk.
Or drive like those downhill drives that go snake back and forth.
Our friend that lived out there, then she still lives out in that area, although I think they've moved somewhere else other than San Francisco. But I remember she had it was just funny. She had a minivan that was a stick shift, which you don't see that often. And she was driving that thing around the streets of San Francisco like it was nothing. And I'm like, I have no idea how you do that.
I don't know how you're
like,
alive.
We had to stop at the top of a hill, and I'm like, oh my God.
We're all going to die.
It's one of my favorite cities, though. I love it.
I don't have an answer to this one. I joked around about it earlier. I would love to go see the Hobbit Hole.
Oh, of course.
I mean, like
that
would be something that I would go be like, I just want to see, even though I know it's just a prop, but it's still there, just to kind of like, I'm standing where everyone else stood. Just that idea that you're kind of in the same place.
And that's like a tourist area, right?
Yeah,
like,
it is now.
It's not because of that, because my daughter's never seen any of that. But she, for some reason, she just really wants to go to New Zealand. Something she saw somewhere made her really want to go to New Zealand. So we might be doing that at some point in our lives.
Barrett answers this question with Ruby Foos in New York City from a Woody Allen movie seen while I was in New York. The Griffith Observatory, seen in a million movies. Sears Tower is leaning my head against the window like Ferris Bueller and Company.
Yeah, I thought of the observatory as well in L.A.
I
didn't go there because it's been in a bunch of movies.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But when I was there, I was definitely
very cool.
Aware of most recently La La Land when I was there. How many great scenes have been shot there.
It is really cool though to just be up there and see the Hollywood sign and everything. That's a cool moment.
Yeah.
Dallas is another city that I think it was just from watching Dallas when I was a kid. I was like, that place looks cool.
Yeah.
Here's one from James. We've actually answered this one before on our show, so you might have one just kind of at the top of your head. Who asks, "What is something that you've only watched for Sins purposes, but you now love?" My go-to answer is The Good Place. I wouldn't have ever watched that unless it was assigned to me.
You watched the whole series, right?
And I got addicted. Yeah, I got addicted to it, jumped into it, and then watched every bit of it, and loved it a whole bunch. So that's mine.
I just got into a show that I just said that we haven't released yet, so I guess I'll leave that alone. But
this could come out like in 6 years. We don't know. Say it.
Yeah, you can say it.
Lucifer. I really enjoyed that pilot, even though I knew it was kind of generic and stuff. But I loved the chemistry of the two leads so much. I was like, I got to see where this goes. So I'm a few episodes in, and I'm really enjoying it. But Isle of Dogs, I might have said this when we covered Isle of Dogs on Behind the Sins. Like, I fell in love with that movie.
Yeah.
And I really liked A Christmas Carol. That was probably the most surprising one, the Jim Carrey, the animated one, the Robert Zemeckis. Because I'm like, I didn't want to watch it at the time because I was like, I've seen this story so many times. I don't care,
Yeah.
But then I had to watch it for sin purposes. And I was like, this is actually really well made. I don't know if it's something I'm going to keep watching, but I was just like, this is actually a really well made version of this. I can understand why this is some people's Christmas Carol, that kind of thing.
Chris answers this one with love is a strong word, but I enjoyed Hitman's Bodyguard,
Nice.
which I have only seen for Sins purposes. Do you have one, Aaron?
Man, I don't know that I could even tell you 3 movies that I saw for the first time sinning them. I watched so many movies since being a movie critic over the last few years.
Did you do Predator?
I don't think
I
was on Predator.
Did you write that one?
Yeah.
I remember you talking.
Maybe I was.
Maybe that was
I
on
don't know.
Civ Pop. I just remember, for some reason, I have that memory of you saying, like, you watched Predator for the first time.
I did watch Predator for the first time recently, but I don't think it was to sin it. I could be wrong, but it's not like I fell head over heels for that movie.
No, I think that might have been Jeremy and Barrett, now that I think about it.
But yeah, so I don't know that I have an answer for this, just because I usually come to a movie having already seen it. So.
I will say, speaking of Predator, a couple that I did where I didn't really like them. Like, I'd seen them in the theater, but I wasn't like a huge fan of them. And then I actually started liking them when I said them.
Yeah.
Was the Predator, the most recent one, the Shane Black one, and Venom.
Yeah.
And I've probably watched Venom like 12 times.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Just so watchable.
Yeah,
like
it's really
just,
fun.
And Tom Hardy is so good. And, and they keep delaying the sequel, and I'm like, God damn it, just release this movie. I want to see Carnage.
Barrett answers this question also, and he says, I'm ashamed to say I hadn't watched Citizen Kane before sending it. I'd seen it, but it was with a bunch of people who'd already seen it, and we were just talking about it rather than actually watching it.
That's interesting. We got 2 mentions of Citizen Kane on this podcast.
Of course, after marinating in it, it's definitely the classic that earned its reputation. This one comes from Cody, who asks, whatever happened to the scene does not contain a lap dance sin? This is a really great question because this is something that's come up behind the scenes with me. I didn't know that it was a repeating sin. You know, when I first started with the company, I jumped into the deep end not knowing a lot about the branding and kind of have learned as I've gone. And I remember Aaron saying, like, if I were you, I would start watching as much content as I can because there's recurring kind of sins. I didn't listen to you on that one.
Well, that was but they had pretty much stopped using that when we came on. So
it came up around that time, and I was like, oh, is this one that we're doing? And that would spark the discussion. Like, there's actually some that we've retired, which only further told me that I shouldn't go back and watch anything because it's I just learn as I go better than I do. My interpretation was just that it wasn't an appropriate sin any longer, and it kind of could be something that easily paints a picture that we just don't want to paint any longer as to who the narrator is.
Even though it came from a perfectly fine place. Like there wasn't any. I don't think there was anything. I guess we don't have to talk about all that. I don't know, but I think that's it. And also, like, you know, running gags eventually they run out.
Yeah. It did appear in a script recently where it was absolutely appropriate because a lap dance was mentioned. So it's not like it's gone forever. Yeah. It's just it's not something that's going to be forced. Chris and Jeremy both answered this question by saying, Chris says basically just being used too much. And then it changed to, is it my girlfriend or wife? And that got old. We still refer back to it when we're playing on the sin. And Jeremy says, people who hate us started using it as some kind of proof that we were perverts.
I want to talk a little bit more about that.
That's kind of more the one.
Yeah, people using it as a weapon.
Because it's a really interesting thing. Now, you can go into a really deep discussion of how comedy changes, what becomes appropriate, what's not appropriate, all that kind of stuff. But the CinemaSins narrator has always been a character, and that character has always been horny, like has always been thirsty. And so not a lap dance in this scene, the is not my girlfriend, is not my wife, sins, that kind of stuff that we've also retired. That makes perfect sense for that character, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you then go, okay, but there's this greater sense of, the public understanding of what's funny. And because things change and ideas change, some things are no longer funny. And that's completely fine. That's appropriate. And so you stop, doing them. I just think it's the last point about using it against us is a really interesting one, because I was just thinking the other day, if you were to add together all the sins ever written on any of the Sins channels, do you know how many jokes we've written? Like, I mean,
That's a lot.
We are writing currently 2 movies a week, 2 TV shows a week, and a music video a week, right?
And a commercial.
And a commercial a week. So we're currently writing 6 scripts a week.
And recording 2 podcasts.
Well, the podcasts are different.
That's true.
Because we're not writing jokes from a perspective of a character, like those kind of things. We're just having conversations. But if someone wants to paint a picture of us, it's easy. It's easy. Yeah. You can cherry pick the sins you want to say anything about us.
Yeah.
You can cherry pick the sins you want to say we're amazing. You can cherry pick the sins you want to say we're terrible people. Like we're
bad writers.
We're not whatever.
Funny,
like this. Like that is the power of out of context, right? And so yeah, that's a really interesting one to me, because there's no way you can define us by even a half a dozen jokes, because that's literally 0.00003% of the material we've written.
I don't even remember. I don't even remember how we came up on something. It might have even been Reddit. It might not have been Twitter, but it might have been something like Jeremy shared or maybe Danae shared. I can't remember, but I did randomly see a comment where somebody called us sexist, and I was just like, "You have not watched anything that we've done then.
Well, and this is the example I also use is the fact that you will see comments within, the same page of each other that say opposite things.
Yes.
I know.
It's like CinemaSins guys are sexist, and then 3 down, the CinemaSins guys are so woke.
Yeah.
The narrator is a character, which we don't talk about too much, but I mean, you could even argue, is he a good person? I mean, there's all kinds of things, like maybe, like you said, he's horny.
Right.
And he bitches about everything. He complains about everything. I mean, that's kind of what we do. So, but we have rules. We have lines that we don't cross. We don't, we're not just mean-spirited for the sake of being mean-spirited. We try not to be. But even then, stuff gets out that we maybe don't think about at the time. There was we had a COVID sin recently, and Aaron and I both, because we had 2 in the script. Aaron brought up his, maybe this one shouldn't go. I was like, yeah, I think I agree with you. So we got rid of that one. We kept one in. And then even Chris was like, I don't know that we want to go there, because then it's going to, people are going to use that, And so I was like, no, that's a good point. So this is another reason why it's good we have multiple people. But even then, stuff is going to get out there that we just aren't thinking about at the time.
Yeah, I think the answer is things change.
Yeah.
Things change, and we don't want to, the narrator stays the same, but how we approach certain sins are going to shift and change as we're educated, or as we realize that the narrator just isn't that much of a fucking asshole, or isn't that much of a pervert, or isn't that kind of a guy. We're going to find those new boundaries for him, and we do as a writing team, just like every show. So,
well, I think if you look at what we take sins off for now, I think that's interesting, because I think that's changed and that's evolved. We sometimes take sins off because it's like, this is a great representation of a female character, stuff like that. Not just that this person's awesome or they're giving a good,
I mean, there's been times that I'll say, hey, this sin just is right on the border of just being really inappropriate, even though I know the narrator is inappropriate. I'm just gonna mention this could be interpreted in a totally different way, and the guys on the team are like, wouldn't have thought about that before. And so it's a really interesting thing to always try to be working out, and we're not gonna, we're still gonna write offensive jokes purposefully and accidentally, and that's that. But the lap dance,
I would say purposely transgressive, not purposely offensive.
There you go. That's it. I'm like, wait, that didn't feel right before I move on. I'm like, I don't want to move on yet.
And it's like we do get accused of being woke and politically correct, and it's like, you can accuse me of that all day. I don't care. I'll take that.
Yeah. Tim asks, in a death match, who would you put your money on? The TV Sins narrator or the music Sins narrator? Now, Barrett answered this question.
Neither one of them are fighters. If we're talking about the actual person.
Barrett answered this by saying, my money is always not on me, so I'd go with TVS.
Yeah, I have the exact same answer. But I try to think of it 2 ways. If you're talking if Barrett and I have to fight to the death.
Well, it's the narrators, though, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Those narrators are more likely to start making out than fight.
So funny.
I mean, seriously, I don't know. I can't. Just the idea of you and Barrett having a fight is hilarious on so many levels, and you would kill him, by the way. Just because, you're just taller, and you've probably got, you've got the high ground.
That's right.
You do have the high ground.
I don't know. I've never talked to Barrett really about fighting. I've honestly, I've never been in a fight my entire life.
Me either.
I've been hit, but I've never reacted. I've never followed through, probably because I was really hurt. But I don't know what Barrett's philosophy on that is. He's not really a fighter. I would not call him a fighter by any means. He's definitely more of a philosopher, lover kind of person.
Yeah, their fight would be some philosophical argument that lasted for several hours that would result in some sort of
a verbal altercation. That would be interesting.
That would.
So the real question is, who would win the war of? Is there an E in the word judgment?
Yes.
That's you guys would just fight over that.
Yes. This one is from Maxim, who asks, when was your first experience with garlic bread? I don't remember my first.
Idea.
I've been having garlic bread for so long. I remember loving garlic bread, and then that led me to a place called Fazoli's.
I was just gonna say Fazoli's.
Fazoli's is known for unlimited garlic bread, and so is Olive Garden, for that matter. I love garlic bread. I especially love the garlic bread restaurants where you can they bring out a nice freshly made baguette, and you cut up the bread, and then you mix your own
oil and spices
and actually like kind of like toasted garlic and spices. That's my favorite.
Yeah, like Carrabba's, Macaroni Grill, places like that do that.
My
usually.
least favorite is Fazoli's because something about their whatever they have invented that is their version of garlic bread. There's 3 ways I know I can instantly trigger an IBS reaction in my body, and Fazoli's garlic bread is one of them.
I have a list of 3 things.
I could be wrong, but I feel like most fast food places, I feel like those are made somewhere else and they're frozen and then they just heat them. There's just something so.
I think they dip them in some kind of really saturated butter.
Yeah, there's a lot of butter.
And it's just
and possibly crack cocaine.
But the type of butter, I feel like
Fazoli's.
it's a specific kind of butter that is a trigger because I could have one garlic bread there and I'm done for.
I have been to Fazoli's probably under 30 times in my life. In every single time, it was because I wanted to eat breadsticks. The garlic
You just
bread.
bought like a sandwich or something just so you could
keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Yeah, that's like going to like a Mexican restaurant and just getting like a small like
I don't
taco
like
or
hardly
something.
any
just
of
to
their
eat
food
just
there.
to eat the chips.
I don't like their pizza. I don't like their pasta. I don't like their lasagna.
I'm not a huge Italian person. I love pizza. But I typically it's always like spaghetti night at our house is always my least favorite night because I'm just like I'll make it for them and then I'll typically make myself something else because I'm not a big spaghetti person or anything like that. I like it fine. I think I can eat it, but it's not something that stands out to me. The only thing I could think of is when I played Little League, we always went to this pizza place in Nashville that does not exist anymore, hasn't existed for a long time. It's called Red Geranium, and I'm guessing that was the first place I ever had it, but I don't specifically remember that.
I'm sure it was my mom made garlic bread for me at some point. It was the first time I had
garlic
it.
bread is so yummy.
My mom wasn't really
I'm
a
so
cook
hungry.
Do the cheddar biscuits at Red Lobster count as garlic bread? Those have a little garlic on them,
Also,
right?
another place.
Those are so
only
good.
reason to go is the bread.
Right?
So you can make that at home. They have the cheddar biscuit mix.
I know
that
now
you can
you
make at
can,
home.
but back
It's
then
so
you couldn't.
yummy.
Yeah.
And you had to go eat some bland shrimp or something just so
Yeah.
you could have cheddar bay biscuits. And I don't think those are unlimited, are they?
Yeah, they
No.
are. Yeah, they are. They'll bring as much as you want, man.
You just can't. I
buddy.
just can't. I don't think those are rich though. I can't eat 30 of those or anything like.
I think I may have eaten 30 of those at
Oh
one
my
sitting
god!
one time.
I would just be shitting at the
that
table.
and Texas Roadhouse.
I
man.
wouldn't even make it. It would just be
I don't
A
even need to
biscuit
eat
goes in
four
and shit
food.
comes out. A
I mean,
biscuit goes in. It's just like a little
it'd be
machine.
like Cartman in that South Park
Oh,
episode.
no, God.
My dad was holding the bucket behind me.
Oh no! And for those of you who are asking in your imagination, thank you. The other 2 things on my list are over 6 shrimp and too much ice cream. Those are my other.
Oh, ice cream! Yeah,
IBS
ice cream
inducing.
kills me, but it's so good.
All right, I
Barrett,
think we have time for a couple more?
Barrett answered this with the old
sorry.
spaghetti factory as a young kid. It blew my mind. I ate so much garlic bread that I got sick and I couldn't actually eat any of the spaghetti.
That is a possibility as well, but I cannot remember when I first went to the spaghetti factory. But that's a very big possibility. That was the first place I had it.
Yeah, we've got a few more here. We'll just kind of power through them. This one's from R and PB who asks, "Is the B team a transferable or permanent position?"
It's permanent.
Jared asks, "What would you do for a Klondike bar?"
don't
Not
like them.
much.
Yeah, not a lot.
Now, ice
Sorry?
cream sandwich.
That's
May-
different.
Whole House ice cream sandwich cookie. Ooh.
Oh, that's my wife's favorite. You and my wife would be eating those all day.
This one was a question answered by Chris. This comes from Fully Vaxxed. Let's Have Snacks, who asks, what's the one movie you wish you could go back and resend with a longer format? So kind of the transition from CinemaSins doing kind of shorter into longer.
So it's a weird question for us because we've only really sinned using.
I mean, there might be some if I thought
Yeah.
about it, there might be some I'd like to see. I mean, we did
Yeah.
Avengers for patrons, right?
Yeah.
Chris asks, probably Inception, because we needed a longer video to explain our positions. We'd find more sins since we opened up the qualifications for a sin a lot since that video. And also, I'd change some sins and do it differently.
I think for me personally, I'd love to see I'd love to send Twilight. I think Twilight you could eat because that was one of their first ones. That's like 3 or 4 minutes. I think you could easily do like a 20-minute Twilight video. That wouldn't be hard at all.
And then we went to Discord for our final one today, which was my question was, hey guys, did you want to ask anything last second? This one comes from Jacob the Hodge. Who said, would you rather fight 2 Danae-sized Aarons or 1 Aaron-sized Danae?
I don't want to fight.
Another fighting question. Or a Jonathan-sized Aaron and Danae, Pervy Uncle Pez adds. And then Jacob stacked on a trench coat and on top of each other. They just kept going. They kept making it more and more interesting. Nobody wants to fight me. That's the answer.
No, I do not want to fight Danae.
No, I
would
like,
definitely. I would
is,
tackle all 6 feet of Aaron.
Yeah,
or whatever.
that is the easiest question ever. Like, you take the strength and aggression of Danae Hughes and put it in my size body, it's over. Like, why would I don't care how many of
It's
the
funny.
smaller
That's like
versions
my
are.
mom. My mom is 5 feet tall. You would not want to fuck with that woman, though. I mean, I can't even imagine what
Just
she
to put
would
it
do.
into perspective, so not only did I study martial arts, but after the movie Fight Club came out and I watched it, I started a Fight Club ring amongst my friends, and we got into actual scraps just to practice like street fighting together. So I haven't been in a situation where someone's been like, come at me and I've had to fight someone, but I have fought people before. So I know how to like at least expect the adrenaline rush, and I know to tie my hair up, and I know to
She practices by pouring like lye over her skin.
and then
God,
and like
I hope not.
as I woke up the other day, I was leaving a really intense dream, and I was replaying in my mind how if I were to ever have to get into a fight for my life, like an actual like to the death fight, what a way to end our podcast today. How I need to just not overthink jabbing my thumbs into both eye sockets at once. And I spent about 5 minutes just being like, no, you could do it, Danae. If you had to do it, you just grab the side of their head, stick your thumbs in there, get some good DNA under your skin, under your fingernails, like then you could run. Like I go through that stuff in my mind. And I don't know if it's because I'm a woman and I expect that at some point in time, like, I don't know. I don't know if that's part of like what it is, or if it's because I went through martial arts training for self-defense, or because I'll see things in movies or TV shows or podcasts about kidnappings and just all this kind of stuff. And I put myself into that situation in my mind, and I'm like, how do I get out? So yeah, you don't want to fight me. I've thought about these things a lot.
And just
when I walk into a room, I look for weapons. I look for things I can use to defend myself. And right now, there's a really cool multi-starred thing on the table that I know for sure I could use as a weapon.
I think that's an interesting thing. We're into this on a really like dark note. But no, that's just interesting talking to just hearing things a lot more from women as I've gotten older. And I mean, just the idea of how you carry your keys, when you're in a certain place and stuff like that. It's just like
I look for shadows when I go to the car, to see if there's somebody like a shadow that's out of place.
that's just
terrible.
I check the back seat.
It's unreal.
So the answer to that question is very obvious.
I just want to say, just don't try to bite off a finger, because people are still commenting on that video
about the carrot.
You can bite off a finger as easily as a carrot.
It's not
just
true.
look it up, guys. Just
You
look
can't.
it
You
up.
I
can't.
still don't. That's one I'm never gonna understand.
It's still happening.
I'm never gonna-
We
I'm
see
never gonna
so
see-
many comments from people. Actually,
could.
did you know you could bite off a finger as easily as you could bite through a
No,
carrot?
you can't.
You can't.
You
Look
can't.
it up.
You can't. Do it. Try it on your own finger. I dare you.
No, because the urban legend is you can't, because your brain stops you.
Oh.
That's the urban legend is
I
you
see.
can't actually bite off because your brain has this.
So then go
switch.
get a chicken. Go get like a little chicken wing or something, that has a bone in there, and just chomp into it. See how easy it is. You have to actually like gnaw on it, and then like a dog, just
that one
shake
just of all the sins that I would have thought we would have had to put like a disclaimer on. That was not one.
That
of
was
them.
not one of them.
But, no.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us for this special
you.
episode of Behind the
you.
Sins. We love you guys so much, and we'll catch you next episode. You can find more information about Behind the Sins at our website, cinemasins.com/BTS, and also on tweeters. We're at CinemaSins BTS. Bye.
Happy whatever day this comes out.
That's good. Just cover all the bases.
Thanks for listening. Send any feedback to bts@cinemasins.com. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment. Find more ways to connect by visiting cinemasins.com/BTS.
So but it's like a Home Depot kind of place.
Yes. Yeah, it's like one of the biggest ones.
I believe it's pronounced Home Depot. Danae,
What?
what would D&D Sins look like as a YouTube channel?
Oh, God. No. No.
That's what it would look like? It would look like
Well,
no?
you know how, like, we've talked about sinning things like Survivor, like reality
Right,
TV?
right.
It's really similar to that, because you would be...
I loved that. I had so much fun with that.
But you would be sinning how people play a game.
Right.
And that's kind of like, I mean, what a bummer would that be? Yeah.